You've seen episode 1 of part 2, right? I mean, how could you not? It's been 2 years of waiting for this, and boy, did Yellowstone come back swinging. We've only gotten a taste of part 2 so far, but let's just say, things are already scorching. And what better way to crank up the heat than with murder, betrayal, and enough drama to make your head spin. If you're not caught up yet, now's your chance to hit pause because, spoiler alert, major spoilers ahead. So grab your drinks and get cozy because we're diving right back into Yellowstone insanity. The wait is over and the drama's just beginning. 2 years, folks. 2 whole years spent speculating, rewatching, and may we say waiting agonizingly, or for better words, suffering with our own theories. And now we're finally back in the saddle. And what's the first thing Yellowstone does? Serves us hot betrayal and more family chaos than Thanksgiving dinner at the ranch. Literally, the first 5 minutes into the first episode of part 2, we saw the unfortunate, but frankly speaking, the foreseeable demise of the man who made the show, John Dutton. And that is just the beginning of part 2, so what else does Sheridan have up his sleeve? And we know the 2-year-long wait was painful, but come on. If you ask us, the wait between each episode fairly rivals it. Because what's next? How did a man that powerful just go away so easily? And is Yellowstone even Yellowstone without the face of John Dutton? We really want to get inside Sheridan's mind just to see how the threads of it all unfold. But before we go into the craziness that part 2 seems to be promising us, let's see where part 1 left us. Season 5, part 1, A Trip Down Memory Lane. Okay, so we can all agree that part 1 was one wild ride through the Dutton family chaos, just like all the past seasons, right? Betrayals, check. Power plays, double check. Part 1 aired a while ago, so let's go over the main chaos. Remember the hardy, stubborn John Dutton? Of course, the man of the show. Well, as stubborn as he always was, he never traded his boots for a suit, even as the new Montana governor. His eyes were firmly set on one thing, safeguarding the Yellowstone Dutton Ranch, and no one was going to stop him from doing so. No compromises whatsoever. And even if everything else about part 1 is a little hazy, we all know no one could forget the biggest shock. His own son, the family black sheep Jamie Dutton, and his ultimate betrayal. Seeing his own father, his own blood, sit in the governor's seat instead of him didn't sit well with Jamie. So what did he do? Did he have a heart-to-heart with his old man? Nope. The black sheep officially jumped ship. He gave his father the ultimate betrayal. He teamed up with the enemy, Market Equities, and going against the family was something his sister, Beth Dutton, couldn't let slide. So enter Jamie's biggest headache, his sister, Beth. Not only did Jamie miss out on the governor's seat, but now he had to deal with his sister, who was more than ready to dish out some serious revenge. Spoiler, it didn't end well for Jamie. Now, while all this drama was unfolding, Casey Dutton had his own set of problems. He and his wife Monica struggled through the toughest of times after the heartbreaking loss of their child. Suffering such a major loss left their relationship hanging by a thread. But if you've been following Yellowstone as closely as we have, you know that the two of them together are stronger than apart, no matter how bad things get. And of course, there was Market Equities, led by the icy Carolyn Warner, pulling out all the stops to take the Duttons down and snatch up their precious ranch. The Duttons had a fight on their hands, and it was one for the ages. So yes, part 1 was as chaotic as any of Sheridan's pieces. And of course, how could he leave us without a cliffhanger? But that cliffhanger promised an action-packed part 2, and it's finally time. And to be honest, it seems Sheridan didn't forget, because oh boy, the first episode is in and part 2's already taking us on a ride. Season 5, part 2, Desire is All You Need. Now enter the first episode of part 2, Desire is All You Need, and we're excited but not surprised at the turn of events. Look, if you've been keeping up with the drama, you must have heard all the ruckus behind the scenes between the man of the show, John Dutton, aka Kevin Costner, and the show's creator, Taylor Sheridan. To sum it up, call their relationship a friends to enemies trope. The tensions between the two had fans on the edge of their seats. Kevin Costner left us all in major denial when he came forward and officially bid us all farewell, so we kinda saw that he wouldn't be in the upcoming part or seasons. But the way of his demise did leave fans a little surprised. Kevin Costner, or should we say John Dutton, manned the show for nearly 5 whole seasons. So wait, get ready, because spoiler ahead, a bullet to the head does seem a little surprising given the man's repute. The show made John such a big shot that never said no to a fight, sprawled on the floor of his bathroom. And worst of all, the murder was staged as a suicide. So no signs of forced entry or furniture torn through the house. Just nothing. It looked like John just gave in. But who could have masterminded such a clean hit? Well, on one side you have Beth ready to hatch it out with Jamie. She's dead set on him being behind it, even with Casey not on board with the thought. And it seems Beth's called her husband to be her support and her personal arsenal for the fight she's surely about to put up. But is Jamie really the culprit? Or are his past acts of betrayal misportraying him in Beth's eyes? Well, honestly, Beth's not too far off the mark with her suspicions. You know Sarah Atwood, right? Of course you do, the fiery corporate shark who also won't let anyone stop her from reaching the top. And you might also remember her as Jamie Dutton's love interest. You get where this is going, right? She's ambitious and she wants a seat at the top, even if that's through Jamie. So, of course, Sarah swoops in to rescue her man. Or at least, that's how she sees it, and takes control of the situation. Yep, she's the one who got the job done, and for obvious reasons too. Without John Dutton in the governor's seat, Jamie goes up the ranks, and with him, so does she. But we're starting to think there's more to the story than this, and knowing Sheridan, he surely has some twists on the way. Wait, how did Sarah Atwood even enter the Dutton family feud? It all happened in Season 1, and don't worry, we got you. Sarah Atwood and Jamie Dutton. True love? Sarah Atwood, played by Dawn Olivieri, entered the scenes in Season 5, Part 1. She's a ruthless lawyer who's always focused on the prize. But here's the twist. Guess who she works for? If you guessed market equities, you're spot on. Being on the side of the corporate giant, Sarah has her eyes on the Yellowstone Ranch, and she knows just the way to manipulate her way to it. The Dutton's family's troubled child, Jamie, was the perfect in that she needed. Jamie, constantly battling with his place in the family and, well, the shadow of his dad, became the perfect target for her, and she knew exactly how to play for power. And she knew what she was doing because soon they went from professional acquaintances to lovers. Well, more like a toxic, manipulative romance, if you want our 2 cents on it. But Sarah wasn't the only one using the relationship. Jamie saw it as a way to escape John's shadow and make his own path, with his own power. Both of them are just pawns for the other to use. Between the two, there's a twisted mix of lies, manipulation, and a shared thirst for revenge against the Duttons. Yes, even if Jamie himself is one. And Part 2 shows just how out of control their alliance is getting, which you know tends to happen once murder is involved. Did Jamie know? The truth behind the Dutton death. Now comes the golden question. Did Jamie really know Sarah's plans all along? If you ask us, the answer is a simple yes. Let's be real, murder isn't exactly child's play. And it's definitely not something done on a whim, even for the man you're sharing a bed with. In Part 2, when Jamie first learns that his father has passed and the cause of death is ruled a 1056, suicide, he's visibly shocked, completely blindsided, almost as if he can't believe it. And honestly, we get it. For a man like John Dutton, suicide feels way out of character. Now, fast forward to when we finally get to see Jamie and Sarah share screen. It seems that's when Jamie starts to piece things together and realizes Sarah is behind it. And yeah, seeing her so ready to celebrate his dad's death was more than a little morbid, even by her standards. And when Sarah saw Jamie shedding tears, it felt almost as if she was kinda offended. That's when she reminds Jamie of their past conversation where he had told her to go forward with it. We know Jamie said they didn't discuss it in detail, but Sarah had a fair point. Was she to talk in detail about how she was going to get John out of the picture to Jamie? And bam! That's when you see him realize how he was the one who gave the green light. It was because of him. So yes, even though he didn't subconsciously at the moment realize the workings of it all, he did know about the plan, and well, for us, that qualifies as him knowing. But before we move on, can we talk about the plot holes for a second? Remember when Sarah discussed logistical solutions with Grant? She seemed opposed to staging the murder as a suicide. But if she was the mastermind, why didn't she clarify that from the start? After all, even she admitted John Dutton was the opposite of a quitter. No one would believe the story of his death. Then there's Jamie's reaction. Why was he so upset when he thought his father had unalived himself because of him, if he planned to remove him from the equation since the beginning? Maybe the reality felt different from what he had imagined, and to be honest, it wouldn't be out of character for him. We're sure even you agree that one of the most complex characters in the series is Jamie Dutton. Sarah Atwood, villain number 1. Throughout the years, it's no secret the Dutton family has had its fair share of rivals, be it scheming politicians, corporate bigwigs, or rival ranchers. It's Sarah Atwood, the resident fixer of market equities, that had the last laugh at John Dutton. So none of the countless enemies we've seen stalking the Duttons over the 5 seasons, but a fiery lawyer with a killer power suit. Don't get us wrong, we still love the storyline, but it's kind of anticlimactic. Look, John Dutton has never been one to back down, so this wasn't the ending we were expecting the patriarch to receive. A man whose death should have been legendary seemingly had his fate sealed by a bullet, and that too was a bullet not from a rivaling cowboy, but a calculated move by Sarah. Maybe Taylor Sheridan took the off-screen tensions a little too personally, but one thing we know for sure is Sheridan knows how to keep us on our toes, even if we're side-eyeing this particular move of his. After all, market equities has been like an annoying mosquito at a summer barbecue, just not leaving us alone. Annoying, but never an ultimate threat. But it seems Sarah's upping the game. But Sarah shouldn't be getting all cozy with her victory just yet. Because here's the thing. If there's anything we've learned about the Duttons, it's that killing the head of the family is like getting a wanted sign stamped onto your forehead. John Dutton's kids, well, his biological ones, love them, hate them, or just wish they go to family therapy, are not the kind to let something like this slide. And while Beth might have her eyes set on Jamie as the killer, once she finds out who actually masterminded the whole thing, well, let's just say Sarah Atwood's days will be numbered. She'll officially become enemy number 1. Now let's talk about the Dutton kids, and to be specific, Beth and Jamie. If you thought their sibling rivalry was messy before, oh, buckle up, because this is about to get downright Shakespearean. All we can think about is thank God Jamie wasn't the one pulling the trigger on dear old dad, because maybe that way he can make it out of this alive. But again, without him, dear old dad would still be living. Beth, of course, is having none of it. She doesn't even know what went down or who's really behind it. She's getting ready to knock over Jamie, and she's already been against the man, so now she'll probably be going at him with reckless abandon. Honestly, Beth's wrath is a spectacle in itself. It's like watching a hurricane that's been waiting 5 seasons to make landfall, and Jamie is standing squarely in its path. Now here's where things get interesting. Jamie might be sharing the same fate as Sarah. Why? We remember hearing about Paramount asking Kelly Riley, the talented actress who plays Beth, to return for future projects. And that's not exactly a comforting sign for Jamie's survival prospects, is it? Also, if we were to bet on who has the higher chance of making it out alive, we're not taking chances with Jamie. Between the 2 siblings, Beth has always been more likely to come out on top. Regardless of Jamie's conniving and backstabbing, he just never quite got the upper hand. Ever. It kind of explains why some viewers even feel bad for him. He's like that kid in school who tries to be cool but ends up landing face first on the ground. And maybe Beth's the one tripping him.